This is not a journey across the map. This is a journey through fear. This is the flak-filled sky above Nazi Germany, and the aircraft flying through it carried the future of the world on its wings. For over a decade, the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress stood as the ultimate symbol of American industrial might and combat endurance. Over 12,000 fortresses were built, and they carried the fight deep into enemy territory, further than any other aircraft of their time. But the real story of the B-17 is not about steel and rivets. It is about the 10 young men crammed inside the frigid, vibrating hull. It is about the radio operator, the navigator, the gunners, and the bombardier, 10 pairs of American eyes, searching for home. Today, Aviation Tales dives into the definitive, untold history of the B-17, the unbreakable bomber that became a legend. The B-17 was born from a singular, revolutionary belief in the 1930s. A heavily armed bomber could defend itself against any fighter. The name Flying Fortress was not just a clever nickname. It was a mission statement. It was armed with 13 .50 caliber machine guns, placed strategically around the aircraft, a self-defending box of fire, designed to tear German fighters apart before they could close in. But the B-17's greatest defense wasn't its guns. It was its resilience. Boeing engineers built redundancy into every critical system. Control cables were routed through to different, isolated paths. They used self-sealing fuel tanks, and the structure was over-engineered to absorb an almost unbelievable amount of damage. This wasn't just good design. It was a calculated risk that allowed the pilots of the mighty 8th Air Force to fly higher, further, and deeper into Germany than anyone else dared. They were the champions of daylight precision bombing. The dream of the self-defending bomber turned into a nightmare in the autumn of 1943. Missions deep into the Reich meant flying out of range of their fighter escorts. The German Luftwaffe waited, and they showed no mercy. The deadliest moment arrived during the infamous Black Week, culminating in the second Schweinfurt mission. The target was the ball-bearing factories, the vital joints of the German war machine. The cost was staggering. On that single day, 60 B-17s were shot down. More than 600 American airmen were lost. The survival rate for a bomber crewman on a full tour was grim. They faced a horrifying cocktail of high-altitude frostbite, relentless flak, and head-on assaults from cannon-equipped German interceptors. Yet, they returned. Those who made it back often landed planes that were barely more than scrap metal, defying all laws of aerodynamics. They flew knowing the odds, fueled by duty, and the need to protect the men flying beside them. Take the story of All-American. After a mid-air collision with a German fighter, the bomber lost the entire tail section behind the horizontal stabilizer. The plane was controllable only by the smallest margins, yet the crew fought the controls for over 90 minutes and landed safely. Another famous fortress, the Ye Old Pub, was ripped apart by flak and a fighter attack. The pilot, Lieutenant Charlie Brown, watched his crew chief die. With a broken tail, half a wing, and no oxygen, they limped toward home, only to be escorted by a legendary act of German chivalry from pilot Franz Stigler. These near miracles were the foundation of the B-17 myth. This aircraft was not only a weapon, it was a fortress that fought for its crew's lives long after it should have crashed. The tide turned decisively in 1944. The arrival of the P-51 Mustang, a long-range fighter with drop tanks, solved the B-17's one fatal flaw: the lack of escort protection deep into Germany. Now, the flying fortresses had teeth and a shield. The massive formations, sometimes 1,000 bombers strong, could fly to any target in Europe and back. With the Mustangs clearing the skies of the Luftwaffe, they destroyed oil refineries, factories, and railways, crippling Hitler's ability to wage war and ensuring the ultimate success of the D-Day landings. The B-17 fulfilled its strategic mission. The war ended, and the B-17 was quickly retired, made obsolete by the advent of jet aircraft and the massive B-29 Superfortress. But its legacy remains unbroken. Today, fewer than a dozen B-17s remain airworthy, flying relics that still draw crowds of thousands. They are flying monuments to the young American men who faced unimaginable terror 30,000 feet above the world. The B-17 was more than a plane. It was a partner to the greatest generation. It was the machine that always tried to bring its boys home. Join us for the next chapter of Aviation Tales. Subscribe and let us know in the comments below. Which B-17 crew story do you find the most inspiring?